especially last month. And I'm really excited about it. We have a ridiculous lineup.
We do have a ridiculous lineup. I just want to share a couple. We did some anniversary math, and we've hosted 22 episodes. We've featured 213 speakers. I don't know how we got that odd number. And viewership has climbed up to 80,000 people per episode, and we've hit 144 countries. So thanks to everybody for supporting us. Hashtag marketing for the now. Let's go. Because first up, we've got Mark Cuban. He's the owner of the Dallas Mavericks. Let's go Mavs, and Shark Tank investor. Welcome, Mark.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me on.
Mark, it's great to see you, brother.
Hey, bud. How are you?
I'm really well. Thanks for being on. I'm going to go right into the first thing I want to say, which is I think you are underrated because I think you and I share something, and the final nail in the coffin happened with this last 5-6 months with NFTs. As I think you are incredibly consumer centric, and I don't think people talk about it enough. When I say that to you, because everything that I've come across on NFTs, it just scares, almost shakes me. It makes me happy because I admire you a lot. I'm like, man, that's the same shit that works for me. You don't come from a place of what's in it for me. You come from a place of what's in it for them, and then you reverse engineer. That's what I believe I do. And I've noticed that through the years, obviously we know each other a little bit, but like this one especially, I feel like you and I and maybe a couple other people have been pretty aggressive on it in a way that just feels exactly like Web 1.0 did for me, exactly what Web 2.0 felt for me. And it probably shouldn't be a surprise because of how much you nailed Web 1 and how intuitive you were in Web 2, even though you were so busy in what you were doing. When I say that opening line, does that hit? Do you understand it? And how do you take that?
Yeah, of course I understand it. I mean, the only benefit of technology is when people benefit from it. And you have to understand what the applications are and how people can consume them. And so, yeah, I agree with you. Whether it was, my first company doing local area networks before pretty much anybody else, doing streaming, doing the first all high definition TV station, being vertical in 2006 with owning a theater and releasing movies on DVD and online, it all comes down to what are people going to consume? What's the path of least resistance for consumers? And if you can take the technology that you're involved with and supply that path of least resistance and give them a better experience, you're going to win.
Mark, I have a take that there's a lot of 1999, 2000 internet dynamics playing out here. That the macro NFT thing is way, way, way bigger than people actually realize because it's a social truth. It's the digitalization of assets. We use those assets to communicate. This is going to play out, like 99 and 2000, there's so much excitement in a certain group, still a small group, but excitement that just like a lot of the internet stocks were overpriced on the macro long-term promise of internet, that a lot of the investing in the individual NFTs have a lot of vulnerability as supply and demand dynamics play out over the next half decade to maybe not be great individual investments, but the macro, and if you can find the Amazon and the eBay and the Google in there, what do you think about that?
I think you're wrong. I don't think it's 1999. Okay. I think it's 1995, right?
Understood.
And I think it's not so much about NFTs. NFTs are proof of concept. Just like, in 1995, everybody was just setting up a website, and that website was a business, and it seemed complicated to do HTML or JavaScript, right?
Yes.
Oh, I know somebody who does HTML. They must be really, really smart. And so every website seemed like a business, and everybody got excited about it. But it turned out that was really just proof of concept. And the underlying concept now are smart contracts on EVMs, Ethereum virtual machines, typically on Ethereum, but also on Matic and other places, right? And you're starting, it just like we argued about in streaming, we argued real networks versus NetShow versus all these other streaming protocols, right? Now we're arguing about blockchains. But the reality is smart contracts on Ethereum and other compatible blockchains, it's just the beginning. And the proof of concept is NFTs. Because anything digital can be an NFT, and we've just scratched the surface on what truly is going to be done with these smart contracts.
Who do you think the big winners are, and who are the big losers in, let's say, the way you see the chess moves playing out over next? I'm gonna truncate this. In the next 5 years, 7, maybe I'll let you push it to 10. I'll let you go where you want to go. Who do you think really wins from this at scale? Consumers are now accustomed to a non-custodial wallet. I keep telling people, my friends, I'm like, don't be your mom and dad. They were scared to put a credit card into a computer, and now you're scared, right?
That's the analogy I use. People were
it.
terrified of credit cards.
Terrified.
No one's going to use Amazon. Yeah, no one's going to use Amazon.
Literally every person at my dad's liquor store, when I was like, buy winelibrary.com, don't drive from New York to the store, they were like, why would my credit card's going to get stolen?
Right, and that's what you saw in media too, right? That's what TV was really big. And I remember doing streaming, and people were like, I don't know what internet broadcasting is, but I'll just turn on my motherfucking TV.
Correct.
Leave me alone.
Who do you think, Mark? To the question, yeah. Who do you think's positioned to really do nicely, and who do you think loses a little bit of leverage in a scaled internet and now an emergingly scaled blockchain ecosystem?
Too early to tell. It really, really is. I think Ethereum will be fine, and the reason I say that is because it's the platform everybody's trying to compete with. And when you try to compete on speed, transactions per second, and pricing, it's really, really tough because everybody sets the same milestones and benchmarks. And it's not like the people in the Ethereum community with their EIPs or Ethereum improvement proposals aren't going to keep on moving forward. They do. And so the whole industry is going to move forward. Smart contracts will move forward. I think what's going to drive everything is the applications. So we're seeing, like what you've done, you've extended the value proposition for NFTs, not just, a digital picture or movie or whatever it may be. You've extended the value, and that was ballsy because I wouldn't even want to be your accountant or your tax guy for the way you guys did it.
Well, especially when you sell Ethereum at an ordinary income and then decides to go in half. I've had a very intriguing 48 hours, no question.
Yeah, just like because you included access to different events,
correct.
How do you account for that?
Right.
There's issues there. So, that's one issue. I mean, things like Cliff Notes, right? Why aren't Cliff Notes NFTs? You take the class, you sell them, right? Someone's going to buy a publishing company and do all that. We still haven't solved music. There's still issues with royalties and extending them across platforms, right? So there's all these things that are going to be solved at some point. And, just like you used the credit card analogy, I used the streaming analogy. When we first started streaming in 1995, in order to listen to, a radio station, you had to have a PC with a modem, with a dial-up ISP, with a TCP IP client, with a client to do the streaming, with a batch file on a website. And now when you think about streaming, you just think about watching TV,
correct.
Watching a show.
Correct.
You don't even know what happens.
Mark, before I lose you in a minute, is there any logical reason for anyone to issue a ticket to an event, a concert, a sporting event, some other, as we go and let's say the prices come down, because I can respect where Ethereum is right now with gas prices, but you can do it on Wax, you can do it on others, and we'll see level 2 with Ethereum. Is there going to be a tipping point where in a little bit here, 2 years, 3 years, 1 year, 5 years, where there'll almost be no reason to not make every ticket an NFT because it becomes a marketing collateral asset for that issuer, and God forbid Luka drops 100 points in a game in 4 years, it becomes a secondary derivative royalty asset for your team.
Yeah, and also it's something, it's an enabler too, so you can do so many different things with it. But the question isn't will it, it's when. And the question becomes, at what we'll start doing it this coming season, where we'll issue an NFT after you've chosen your ticket on Ticketmaster or whatever, right? So Gary has seat A3 in section 109. Now we already know that. We use the API, bam, we'll give Gary his NFT, and that comes with all the associated value that we create for it, because there's no limit to the value we can add to it. And then the hard part then is saying, okay, how do we move that closer to the origination of the purchase of the ticket?
Yeah, it'll take some time.
Yeah, that'll take some time.
Brother, I wish you well.
Bro.
See you soon.
Congrats. Always a pleasure.
Next up, we've got Sarah Zucker of The Sarah Show. Sarah is an artist and writer who creates interdimensional TV transmissions with humor, psychedelia, mysticism, and the interplay of cutting-edge and obsolete technologies. She's been editioning her work of NFTs in the crypto art space in early 2019. Sarah's GIF art has been viewed over 6.6 billion times on Giphy, and she's a Jeopardy champion. Welcome, Sarah.
Hey, Andrea, I think you might have a tab open. Andrea, there's an echo of some sorts. Not sure. Take a look. Or maybe that's coming. Actually, are you on a phone?
Me? No.
Yeah. Okay, we'll figure it out. No worries. Maybe go on mute, Andrea. I'm not sure if there's something going on there. Do you hear the echo, Sarah?
I do not.
Okay, no worries. How are you?
I am great. How are you?
I'm incredibly well. Why don't you start with a manifesto? What is your, I think that's what I'll probably start doing for the rest of the show. Give me your 2-3 minutes on what the many who are watching here need to know about NFTs from your incredible perspective as an OG and somebody who's been living with it.
Sure. I get asked this a lot, and they really are as simple as a container, right? NFTs are a container technology. I'm an artist who has a background in the photographic fine art market. So I really see NFTs as a complete one-to-one analog from, the way a photographer could edition a print of their work. We as screen-based artists can now edition our work in its native format. It's really as simple and as revolutionary as that. As someone who's worked with video for about a decade at this point, it was always a difficult proposition to try and monetize and find support for your work. You had to do all these sort of Byzantine things to try and get yourself supported as a video artist or as a GIF artist or a 3D artist. So it's really interesting. It's one of those technologies that in its simplicity, it has, as we've seen, broken this dam of support open for an entire subsection of artists who have really been defining our visual culture in metaverse online for a long time at this point.
I think that's exactly right. Team, on the marketing for the now side, I've got nothing open and I don't know why I'm echoing. So let's see if we can figure it out. Just text me if you haven't. Oh, there we go. I think somebody fixed something. Sarah, what is the response from the artist community that's like, just wakes up right now and says, my God, wait a minute, has my life completely changed? Do I actually now have a practical means to, instead of using this on the internet to get exposure, which might lead to something, no, the actual thing becomes the thing and can really change my life? What have been the whispers in your community?
Yeah, it has been, there's been a lot. There's been a lot of noise in the artist community, certainly, because, like with anything like this, you see a lot of people sort of quickly grok what it is and run with it. Mm-hmm. And there's also been a lot of fear, I think, that has come up, which to me says a lot about the artist's place in society, really. I think a lot of us have for a long time been very conditioned to create our work for free, to seek visibility for our work, through social media and proto-social media like Tumblr. And it was always this model of create good work and then wait for emails. We're expected to create your work and then wait for people to contact you and potentially commission you and potentially give you gigs. And this is such a complete flip or flippening, if you will, of how we support ourselves as artists. And I think for a lot of people, there's disbelief around that because, lived life and lived experience really conditions you to expect things to be a certain way. And I think it's that. It appears maybe to some people almost like it's easy money. And I would be the first to say nothing about this has been easy.
Where people are confused, Sarah, is some of the people that moved first, who deserve it, moved first and fast, were able to get different economics. What everyone's about to realize, Sarah, and I'm sure you know this, is that, can you hear me?
Hear you. I'm going to try headphones in.
No worries.
The echo is my problem.
Yeah, no worries. We're working around it. The thing that I think people are going to realize is that the supply and demand now that the cat's out of the bag, you're just going to have so many more people creating art, ones that have held it in the past, and there's just a supply in that scenario. But I don't believe that the artists that I've watched, especially in 18, 19, and early 20, that might have had some incredible moments, especially in that early establishment, I believe they deserve it for taking the risk and seeing it and finding it. I think they earned it through strategy. And now what's going to happen, it's like social media. In 2006, 7, 8, 9, some people established, Dane Cook established his fame by using MySpace. He earned that with the right strategy. Then everyone figures out social media is something, and then it becomes a supply and demand. Every 20-year-old is trying to become TikTok and Instagram famous. Not everyone's destined to. I don't think every artist that is good is going to smash it selling NFTs in 2023. I'm just happy so many more will than would have had the technology not come across our paths. You agree? You disagree?
Oh, absolutely. I think, what you're hitting on, and thank you for saying that, I think you're absolutely right that artists have been conditioned to do the best we can with an attention economy. That's what,
right.
Every artist, I think, working today knows the email of, I'm not going to pay you, but I'll give you exposure, right?
Sarah, real quick,
Yes.
real quick. I apologize for interrupting. I would argue everybody's been living in that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've been living off of that. Build exposure, and then I've worked my face off in building companies that might be able to. Now, not as much. Now I have options to not have to do that. I view a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of other, I think artistry goes pretty broad. You have comedians who are putting out clips that get 40 million views on a TikTok post who are now potentially going to sell that comedy. It's really a fascinating time, no?
Oh, completely. We've added this extra component. We're essentially just adding to the attention economy this component, which allows us to then convert that attention into financial support, into something that says we are now no longer expecting support to trickle down to us sort of at the end of the line once everything else has taken its cut. It's now allowing us to really take the reins on what we're doing here.
Sarah, do you think, one thing I've seen from some of the artist community is like, Gary, friends are like, but it's not fair, this athlete's doing it and this is doing it and they're taking away from us. I'm like, brother, you've been talking about freedom of art. Well, this is freedom of art. You can't have it both ways. Have you seen that conversation spin up, and have you what's your point of view on that?
I have, and I see, like I said, there's a lot of noise in the community. It can be quite deafening at times. And what I always say about this space is that it's self-electing, right? That it's something that creating NFTs, and that's what I mean by it's very hard for people to shake their sense of how things should be. Because of how things have always been. And I don't know if you've ever seen the meme of the kid holding, it's like he has a boot on his head and then it zooms out and you see he's holding the boot on his head. That's kind of what it brings up for me of like, no one is getting in your way except yourself in this regard. That this is something you elect yourself to do. And I will say this as someone who, I had a very modest social media following prior to this. I, of course, was a very dedicated artist for many years, but I was not coming to this space as someone who you would consider to be a celebrity. And I have really, myself and many of the artists in this space have established ourselves by continuous good work.
Okay.
It is as simple as that, continuous good work.
And Sarah, look, if the queen, if she of art came down and said, okay, I'm the official voice, and Sarah, you're just as good as Darrell and Donnie and Susan over here. Mm-hmm. But you moved quicker and more strategic, so your impact financially and awareness is going to be different because Darrell and Susie and Donnie are destined to come in a year and the supply and demand curves are going to be different. That is how it's going to play out.
It is. It's what I remind artists, because I do, I am an artist first, and I want as best I can to help artists who are naturally sensitive people, just take care of their mental health and all of this. That I remind them that your sales have nothing to do with the quality of your art. Really, like those two things are perhaps related, but there's not causality or correlation there. That this is ultimately a market. This is something that is a market. If you're coming in late to a market and the market is already very saturated, you are going to have a much harder time establishing yourself.
Sarah, very famous people have sold no NFTs. You know this.
Yes.
Some of the most famous people in the world have launched NFTs in the last 2 months, sometimes in collaboration with a great digital artist, and have sold nothing because they didn't build it, or they didn't market it, or they didn't launch it with the right strategy.
Right. And I think you're hitting on something really important here, which is authenticity has a great deal of value in this space, I think. And my experience has been that crypto native people can smell bullshit from a mile off. Humans can, totally. And that's when I see that happen. I think that it's that everything we're doing here is a question around what has value and why do we give it value. And when it's perceived as someone coming in with this energy of sort of like they're just coming in from left field because they smell money, people just go, I don't want to give you my money, you know?
The end.
Yeah.
Yeah. When and I know we have to go. I'm ready, Andrea. I know I'm having too much fun with Sarah and went over, and I don't usually do that. Or Sarah, when the artist, whether it's someone famous or an artist, even maybe from real physical art, they come in with audacity, as if they are owed it or deserve it, which is ludicrous.
It is ludicrous. And I think that's what excites people about this space is a feeling of course, it's like I said, it's not necessarily correlated to quality, but there is a sense of it's just tumbling those feelings of entitlement and those feelings of who is owed what. And I think that excites people, that we're seeing a different group of people kind of come to the forefront with this.
I love it. Thank you for being on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Next up, we celebrate Tom Bilyeu. Tom has quite a personal story in addition to being a billion-dollar entrepreneur. He co-founded Juggernaut Quest Nutrition and is now the CEO and co-founder of Impact Theory, where his studio produces tons of content, including the company's flagship series, Impact Theory with Tom Bilyeu, where he interviews the world's highest achievers in order to unlock their secrets to success and a powerful mindset. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you.
Tom, great to see you.
What's up, dude?
Great to see you, brother.
Same, man.
Looking at your shelf, knowing you personally, did you do the same thing I did in December, January? I don't know when you did it, where you were just like, thank you, God, for letting me be at this point in my life when this thing came along.
No doubt. Yeah, I got introduced to the idea of digital rarity about 6 years ago. And the guy showed it to me and I was like, whoa. That is going to entirely change my business. And then promptly forgot about it because the tech wasn't ready yet, obviously. We didn't have the network effects. But so when it came back on my radar, I was like, we are all in. We are moving millions of dollars allocated to building things out in the blockchain space, especially NFTs, and have really stayed true to like, this is changing our entire business. So it's this is a thrill ride.
What's your early observations? What do you think?
So right now, people need to look at this as a technology. And so I am, unlike you, who were sort of savvy enough when Web 1.0 came around, you got that early. For me, I was in filmmaker mode. So that was just a non-entity. I wasn't thinking about that at all. I was just, how do I break into Hollywood? It was a totally different game. That passes me by. I get into business much later, probably 2003. I finally embark on my business journey. This is post-collapse, so I'm coming into this, technology is a thing. And that was, now looking back, really sad to have missed that. So seeing this now, seeing the energy, seeing how there was just this sucking sound of talent and excitement pouring into this space and, wanting to be in it from the ground up, wanting to build something long-term. And that's the sort of key insight, and is what's allowing us to get a lot of artists on our platform at a time where, everybody's got a platform, is we give them our best practices document and say, look, this is about long-term, this is about building a community, and people can see my track record. I know how to build communities. That's what I do. So I'm like, look, we're gonna help you guys build a community and help you build out a long-term strategy. Don't think of this as that quick cash grab. And then the next part is, this is a technology. And so as an artist, you've got to now broaden your canvas of possibilities of how you give that moment of awe where you're giving people the chills through your art, because you understood that the modern canvas now, can do shit. And so it's a really interesting moment.
There's a lot of entrepreneurs in here, a lot of different people. We've only got 5 minutes. What is like, go bullet point for me. Bullet point things that people should do or think about.
If they want to leverage blockchain and NFTs?
Yeah, if they're watching this, right, you've had 3 people on now with me. I've been yapping forever. Like, the energy's building. They're like, all right, maybe I believe these people. Maybe I believe it. Maybe I don't. I'm not cynical. I'm not gonna do what I did with the internet and with social media and say no. This time, trick me once, trick me twice, but this third time, I'm not missing. How do you think about it?
Yeah, number one is people need to learn about the technology. So the entrepreneurs that are going to win are the ones that can create something other people can't create simply because they know what I call the physics of the situation. So there's a guy that I think is really worth following. His name is Gary Vee. I don't know if you've seen him, but he talks a lot about this idea of like waking up and looking what's popping off in the App Store. That's somebody who understands attention, understands human psychology, and goes, okay, based on what I know about human psychology, you tell that famous story, you put the sign here, right? Mm-hmm. And so as people are getting into NFTs, if you don't understand the physics of that technology...
Hold on 1 second, I apologize. There's somebody spamming on Facebook, acting as me, putting a wallet up. Let's ban that person. And also, I will never ask you for money. I will never ask you for your MetaMask seed phrase. Sorry to cut you off, Tom, but I'd love to get your perspectives on this. When it's the wild, wild west, you also get a lot of the scammers out there.
Yeah, people have got to get educated, and this is where taking full responsibility for yourself and educating yourself before you do anything is the key. Now, taking action, I think, is the most important thing that you can do. So bullet point number 2. So if number 1 was learn the technology, number 2 is now go create something. And when I told our team that, when I first told them years ago, hey, we're going to get into comics, and we were like a YouTube channel, they were all very confused. And 10 months later, we've got comic books on stands. And my own team was like, how did we just pull that off? Right? But it's just, what are the physics of the situation? And so I went into extreme learn mode. So I did the same thing with NFTs. All right, cool, the technology's here, but I don't know the technology. So now I need to get under the hood, take every meeting I can, start learning Solidity, look at, Flow blockchain, what are its advantages, Wax, what are its advantages, Ethereum, what are its advantages, where do I think people are going to be, right? Skate to where the puck is going to be, not where it is. There was no way for me to sort of think my way through that. I had to start building. So I found a tech guy. We originally thought we were going to build on Flow, then actually getting into sort of where that tech was compared to what I needed to do, realized, nope, we need to be over on Ethereum. And so that wasn't something I could think my way to. And so getting people super comfortable with go take action, go mint an NFT, go put it out there, create something, get feedback. That's going to be huge. And then number 3, this is a community game. So no matter what you're creating on an NFT, if you're not building a community and holding yourself accountable to what's going to happen over the next 10 years, like what I put out today will be scrutinized 10 years from now, and my community is going to be on the fucking blockchain. Yeah. So like there is that history which now can work for you, which is amazing. I say a lot that being in the era that we're in with social media and now the blockchain, you're living in a phenomenal time because being a good person suddenly is the greatest marketing vehicle of all time.
Go figure.
It's crazy. But like that wasn't always true.
No, it wasn't.
Or at least it wasn't easy to get it out there.
Correct. Because there was too many gatekeepers. A mature internet and a mature blockchain is a very remarkable reality that everybody watching this, God willing, good health, will live through, and it's going to be real fucking different, Tom.
Yeah, man, and people got to cut through the noise. So especially right now, we're recording this in the middle, like a day after a catastrophic dip in the market.
Yep.
And if people have that long-term vision and they understand the technology, you can actually create a functional thesis. So the question I come back to as the market is plummeting is digital adoption a one-way street, yes or no? If it's a two-way street and people might, maybe I like this internet thing, but know what, actually I'm going to totally abandon the internet. Or maybe I like this blockchain thing, no, I'm going to totally abandon it. To me, my thesis is it is a one-way street. It is hope of a better future. It brings new abilities that we didn't have before. And I cannot see in any meaningful way that people will ever backtrack. So now it's like, sure, there's going to be sort of winners and losers of the specifics. But if you're betting on the technology, the blockchain, if you're betting on, decentralizing, you're going to win.
I agree. Tom, Great to see you, brother.
Brother, thanks for having me on.
Next, we welcome Q Harrison Terry, an entrepreneur who founded 23VV, the world's first digital art marketplace powered by the blockchain. He recently sold the World Star hip hop chain for 121 ETH on OpenSea, and is also the author of the NFT Handbook, which is being published by Wiley later on this year. Every year, Q Harrison picks one skill that he knows very little about and challenges himself to master it. This year, Japanese. Welcome, Q Harrison.
Konbanwa. Well, what's up, y'all? What's up? Gary V, what's popping?
Great to see you.
Life is good for me. What about you?
Yeah, things are well. Thank you for asking. Talk to me
Likewise.
about your. I'm giving everybody the first 3 minutes just to manifesto 101 or 5, 6, 7 bullets that you want the people to hear. You've been in it. You're doing your thing. What do people need to know, or what's intriguing to you?
It's still day zero, right? I think that's the first thing that anyone that's looking at this, whether you got involved with it 9 months ago, 3 years ago, or you're just starting today, it's day zero for NFTs. And what that means is you can still learn and be impactful no matter where you're at. And because there's so many industries that haven't been NFT'd yet, or haven't picked up the technology and decided to use NFTs in whatever fashion they will, you can possibly become that expert. And I think that, to answer to your question, Gary, what would I recommend someone to do is I would say, go learn, right? And I think learning is different for everybody. There's no one size fits all solution for knowledge, just in general, right? Some people learn better off Instagram. Other people learn better off a textbook. Figure out what's most applicable for you and go find the medium at which there's NFT inspiration there. If you're an Instagram person, you like social media, @NFT is a great place. It's on Instagram, follow the account every day. There's new information. They're covering the highlights and they're doing the research for you so you can kind of see what's going on. And if you like something, go dig deep. I think applying that knowledge is the second point, right? If you're going to apply your learnings, that's the only way you're going to understand and build the comprehension that you need to even teach others, or, say this will or this won't work. And ultimately, this NFT space, Gary, I'm curious your thoughts here. My third point would be about showcasing. You have to, this is one of the few mediums where you have to show up and showcase the work in a way that, not only activates your community, but also gets the people talking, right? Like all of the NFT artists that you have on the show today, just the people that have done something, they all have something to show. And that's the common thread. When it comes to showcasing your work, there's tons of places you can go.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but not only do I agree with you, I actually think it's the variable. I think that people think it's the technology. I think the variable, or even the art, I absolutely believe the variable is the launch strategy.
Yeah, 100%. And the expertise on the launch strategy. You can't go create a wallet yesterday and say, oh, I'm launching an NFT and expect the community to be with you.
Correct. And for example, with VFriends, I didn't want to go fiat. I wanted to educate people on Web3, non-custodial, because I know I'm good at it. I know I have trust. I knew I could protect it. I went authentic with Discord. I went authentic on-chain minting. But it took me 100 days instead of just putting something out.
You know what's funny is I was trying to get some VFriends on the NFT side, and every time you do the drop, I would miss it, and then I was just catching the ones I wanted that people were already reselling them. Yeah, there we go. And then I was like, damn, Gary, I can't even get in, because you'll just put it out on Twitter and I'll see it. And I'm like, God, I'm not the first person to see it.
So when did you have your eureka moment? What's your eureka moments?
So you're gonna love this. I was a digital art dealer in 2014. That's when I first started dealing digital art. At the time, I wasn't using the blockchain. I literally had a couple social media accounts. I was running around with the moniker Artsy Promoter. Bought the domain on the internet. Put up a few, social media accounts, and I was just going to artists, and I was like, look. Artists, they make great work. People have money and they like to spend it on it. I'm broke. I'm in college. I could go work at the library. I could go work at some student thing and make $15 an hour, or I could go sell a piece of art and figure it out, and I could make $5,000, $10,000. And so I was hitting people up in San Francisco, New York. Peter Vu was one of our first big clients, and he's this New York artist. So, you know, I'm seeing it and I'm like, whoa, in the New York art world, I'm in Wisconsin. And I get a Voo piece. And of course, he's like, you know, some black kid out of Wisconsin trying to sell his artwork. And he's this prestigious artist. He's like, oh, hell no. But I'm like, yo, I'm like, Voo, I'm not trying to sell your actual work. I don't even want to sell the prints. I want to sell the digital variants. And he's like, huh? And that's
he was like, no risk to that. I don't even know what the fuck that is.
Exactly. And so, like, you know, I was like, yo, you can sketch. All of your work starts intrinsically on a digital medium. I was like, if you're using the Adobe suite, those are all binary bits and pixels. If you're sketching on your Galaxy Note, because he did a Samsung Galaxy Note campaign way back when, right? And so he used the Note, like he was actually one of those people that was about it. And a lot of his sketches he started on his Note. I'm like, bro, just give me those files and I'll sell them. And so I ended up, long story short, we started this marketplace called 23 Vivi a long time ago, raised some money for it. It was fun. We had, you know, a good time. Exit. I'll say we were way too early and we were on the Bitcoin blockchain. Much different than what you see with the Ethereum blockchain and some of the derivatives there. Because, you know, Bitcoin blockchain was mad slow. Like, and then at the time, like I'm in college, so we're selling art. The way I did it was I told all my friends, I'd be like, yo, just buy this art piece from me. I'm gonna sell it to you for $1. Because we did this reverse Dux auction model where I'd sell art for $1, just knowing that like it was easier to sell something for $1. And it's just about momentum. Like you just build that momentum, you get the sales, and then, you know, things kind of compound from there. So I would sell like the first 20, I would only make 23 editions. And sometimes we didn't make 23 editions. Sometimes we only had 16 or 5 or 10 just to build artificial scarcity. But the first editions always sold for nominal prices. They'd be like, like $10, $5, $20, right? And I would then go create markets. I would know like 4 or 5 real art collectors, and I'd be like, yo, you can get a Peter Vu piece for like $300. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah. And then they would buy for 300, right? And so I would tell my friends, be like,
you know what? Honestly, bro, the only thing I'm thinking about right now is like, damn, I wish Q and I went to college together because we would have been on that 24-hour hustle. Like, you're grinding and learning your way.
Yeah, and so I did that. I paid for a lot of college using different hustles, Bitcoin. I don't have a lot of it today because that paid a lot of my tuition. Yeah. But I still stayed active in the community. So when NFTs popped off again, like September of last year, I started seeing it bubbling. And I was like, and I'm getting all these texts and tweets, and people like, you were so ahead of the curve, blah blah blah. And I'm like, all right. So obviously, I get the call one day. And they're like, yo, can you sell an NFT? And I was like, what do you mean? Like selling an NFT? Like, that's easy. And so I wanted to apply the same things I just talked about. I wanted to say, okay, what do I know something about? And for the first time ever, now the general mass market is involved in, these digital wallets and NFTs, and they want in. And so I talked to the people over at WorldStar Hip Hop, and I was like, yo, can I sell a WorldStar Hip Hop chain? And I know my name's Q. I'm not trying to impersonate Q from WorldStar. This is Q Harrison, but I want to sell a WorldStar Hip Hop chain. And they're like, bro, what are you talking about? WorldStar, you know how it is, right? They're like, they're clowning me out the room, but they're like at the same time, like, yo, like, what is the kid talking about? And so I finally got them to get on board with it, and we reached out to the good people over at Lemonade TV to build the audience visually. We did this auction style drop, very similar to 23 Vivi, but in this case, we set the price and said yo, it's a digital chain. There's only one of one. We're about to move a digital chain on the blockchain. Come catch it off the block. And Ben Baller tweeted about it. And then he hopped on Clubhouse and started ranting. And obviously you have the first person ever make the real WorldStar chain. That caused all types of waves. We hit TMZ and, Blockboy Crypto talked about it.
So the whole thing.
You saw, yeah. So then, and then it sold for 121 ETH, which is, I don't know, today's price is probably around 300,000, somewhere around there. But though that's the type of thing, those are the type of communities that you really want to take NFTs to, right? The world is effortless. I was talking to a company. They're in your realm. They're like a alcoholic beverage company, and they're thinking about taking their bottles and turning them into NFTs. And I thought that was a super cool concept. And
you said something very, very smart right off the gate. Everything's gonna get NFT'd.
Yeah, it's inevitable.
That's right. I remember I said that about websites. People laughed. I remember I said it about social media accounts because I pointed to 45, 50-year-olds at the time. You're gonna have a social media account. They laughed. Everything's gonna NFT.
Everything, the NFTification of everything. So Gary, you're gonna NFT this moment right here. Actually, I can do it if you let me. I get your permission?
Approved. Go, Q.
All right, cool. We're going to turn this into an NFT. We'll drop it.
See you, my man. Thank you for being
Thanks,
on.
man. One.
Let's go. Next, we welcome Allison Weisbrot, editor of Campaign. Allison is an award-winning journalist with expertise in advertising, marketing, and technology. Today, Allison may flip the script and interview Gary about what NFTs mean for the advertising industry. Let's see.
All right, yes, we're gonna put Gary in the hot seat now.
I didn't even know this. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Allison, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Real quick, 2 seconds. I just noticed somebody posted on Facebook, Gary Vee, what's good? It's Trash from Mount Ida. My boy Trash from college is in Facebook. I haven't talked to him in 20 years. Trash, what's up, my man? I miss you. Hit me up, Gary, at Vaynermedia.com. We got a chat. All right, Allison, go ahead.
All right, so there's so much hype around NFTs. Obviously, you're really bullish on them. What's the long-term business opportunity for brands and marketers who are really trying to get into the space?
Well, I think one thing that a lot of brands don't realize is that NFTs are actually marketing collateral. You know, if Planters, a client of ours, puts out an extraordinarily smart Mr. Peanut NFT and it finds its way to 100,000 wallets. The world I live in, Allison, that a lot of people don't yet, is that public wallets, right? Public wallets need to and are going to exist. Meaning that if you have a public wallet, it will be similar to your Instagram account.
Okay.
So I live in that world. I live in a world that somebody's gonna come along, win the public wallet game, and I'm gonna go to wallet.com/Allison and look at the tokens you have in the same way that I would Google you or go to your Instagram today. I am completely in belief of that.
So essentially, brands will need to have a presence the way they do on a social media platform in the form of a public wallet.
The reverse. They need to put out NFTs that are so interesting that lots of people buy them or have them, and then when people go and look at people, if I go to Drake's public wallet and see a dope, Mr. Peanut NFT, that's good brand equity. Got it?
Mm-hmm.
So I believe when brands realize this truth and then start making NFTs that aren't bullshit, just like put it out there, but something that's thoughtful, has a smart contract underneath it, brings extra value, then it gets interesting.
Okay. How did a lot of your guests that were just previously on were talking about the NFT community and how that's so important to sort of get involved with different communities who are, into the NFT world. How can brands do that? I think a lot of times when brands show up, it seems really cheesy and inauthentic. How can they what types of brands can really make a play in this space?
I mean, every brand can make a play. The problem is brands and agencies are cheesy. I mean, Vayner does cheesy work. It drives me crazy. Like I don't need to point fingers. Let me point thumbs. Vayner does cheesy work because advertising people do advertising shit, Allison.
So how can they not? How can they take advantage of this space?
By stop being fucking cheesy. And I think it starts with the client, right? I think, my teams get into subconscious what they think the client will say yes to versus presenting the best work. And that's what I keep pushing them on, right? So I do think it starts with the clients being less scared.
Yeah, well, that can be difficult, I think.
But before we move on, that's fear is the devastator of life. People don't post things on social media because they're scared something's going to say they're ugly. Brands don't do something smart because they're scared it may go wrong, and then Campaign's going to write an article that says, it's true. That's what they do. Right. And I should keep reminding people that if you have good intent, that it can only be so bad.
Right.
And I think people, and by the way, we also live in a world where everyone's a keyboard warrior. People crapping on a brand on Twitter and then 24 hours eating their sandwich, even though they don't, from a business standpoint, people love to talk on the internet, but don't actually live their life that way.
Right. Sticks and stones a little bit.
A little bit.
So a lot of the NFT conversation is around artwork, buying and selling digital artwork. For businesses, is there any other viable use case in creating NFTs?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're utilities. I don't think a single business will ever have, in 7 years, I don't think a business is going to have a membership card. Why? Put it out as an NFT. I think restaurants can launch their restaurants selling NFT tables where that person owns that table and it becomes like a Rails situation. I think there's a ton of things coming. You know?
Have you seen any good examples yet?
No. You know, it's extremely early. Like, I haven't stumbled on it. I'm sure there are. But like, I think that every restaurant should have an NFT project where the NFT is a discount code if you own it, free food if you own it. I have a lot of ideas in the restaurant space specifically.
Interesting. So NFT values you were just talking about have declined pretty rapidly, but you're still really bullish on it. You think everything will be the NFTification of everything, I believe was the phrase used. You know, how do you see the volatility in the space, and also just sort of like the newness of it?
It's, you know, I've been through this before, right? Like, I was there when Facebook stock opened at 42 and went to 19. I was there when everybody wrote the internet off as dead in 2000. You know, so I think, you know, for me, I'm comfortable in this place. I keep reminding people, don't be frivolous with your money. Don't do things that you can't afford to lose. You know, like, this is an incredibly amazing time. I do believe in the NFTification of everything, but I think that's going to take a decade. And do I think that somebody can buy an NFT today on OpenSea for $1,000 that's destined to be $50,000? Yes, I do. Do I think far more people are going to buy something for $2,000 that are destined to be $85? I do. I'll give you an example. If you bought Beanie Babies at the height of eBay Beanie Babies, then that didn't go to zero, but the Princess Diana Beanie Baby on eBay right now is not what it was in the height.
Right.
At that same time, you could have bought a Michael Jordan rookie card for a lot less than it is today. Alternative investments have grown.
Right.
You just have to pick the right ones.
Yeah. And you have to think long term, I think, about it.
Which is why you got to think about it and the person behind it.
What do you mean by that?
Well, for example, one of the reasons I have a ton of confidence with BeFriends is I'm good at building businesses and brands. And so I'm going to build out these characters, and I think I have a legitimate chance to make them the Smurfs or Care Bears or Power Rangers because I'm good at business and good at brand building. If I was on the other side of me, would be more confident in my project than somebody else who might have done beautiful art but has never built a community or an economy.
So how do you see VeFriends, like, what have you learned so far from launching it that other businesses can learn from as well? And how do you see it fitting into your overall Vayner empire?
I think I learned a lot of things. One, I learned that we were very early. The tech was challenging. We had to push it back a week. I learned that what I always believe, it's why my books have done well. I'm a big fan of selling early, so building a Discord community for a month before it came out really mattered. Big shout out to everybody who's watching from Discord. It's become an incredible community, which has become a monster in itself above and beyond when I'm in there. The community's bigger and stronger than me. Education, Allison. I put a lot of time and effort into educating people what a non-custodial wallet is. You can't buy my NFT just with Coinbase. You have to get a MetaMask or a Rainbow or a Wallet Connect. Education and community, if you're going to dive in today, are the two for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So where do you see VeFriends going?
I think it's going to be one of the most significant intellectual properties born out of native NFT land in the history of time.
Well, I guess I should go buy one then.
I can't give investment advice or things of that nature, but I can definitely tell you that I'm incredible. I can tell you this. I've never, ever felt like this. I feel like I've always had this weird point of view on Walt Disney and Vince McMahon, and now I understand very clearly why. I was envious. I was like, man, it'd be so cool to create a world. And the fact that I'm going to be able to create a world around the things that I am passionate about as Gary Vee, I'm also excited about taking a little bit of a step back. And, you know, Gary Vee is very much me living my life because I know people find the way I communicate interesting. And so it's a platform for me to talk about compassion and empathy and patience and kindness and hard work and ambition and accountability things that my mom instilled in me, like things I really genuinely honestly believe in. But I'm a loud, aggressive, compassionate, convicted Jersey boy, and that means that a lot of people aren't gonna fall in love with me. As a matter of fact, some people are like, forget that guy. The fact that I'm gonna be able to use empathy elephant or patient panda or accountable ant to tell the stories that I believe in, that's a legacy that's interesting for me.
That sounds awesome. I'm excited to see where it goes.
Awesome. Thanks for being on. That was fun. Andrea, I like what you did there. I think that is a format for future.
She's good.
She's amazing, but I've never been on the other side of marketing for her now. Allison, thank you.
You never know on marketing. Thank you, Allison. Next up, we've got Mike Winkelmann, known by many as Eeple. Mike is an artist living in Charleston, South Carolina, who has been at the forefront of digital art for the last 20 years. He is best known for the Everydays project, in which he has created a picture from the start to finish for 14 plus years. This year, Christie's auction house offered an NFT of a compilation of these images entitled The First 5,000 Days, which sold for $69.3 million. Welcome, Mike.
I love how both of us are shaking our head with that. Like when she said that, both of us are just like, oh my fucking God.
Mike, you put in the work for a decade plus. You taught yourself. You got better at drawing. You figured out that karma and giving worked. Your earliest breakthroughs were through these, visual jockeying, kind of video jockeying for the music world. I see a lot of people have anytime you're going to do something like sell a piece of digital art, first and early, when the world knows nothing about NFTs, for that kind of number, of course, we have to have compassion for society to have a ridiculous overreaction the other way, saying, who is this guy that's a bull? Makes sense. On the flip side, for me, I see a very different story. I see a man who committed to his craft, who did it for 14 years, who got better and better at his craft, who had the natural storytelling talent, and then recognized an innovation change that he was able to apply against and built momentum. Thoughts?
I think you forgot the luck part there. There's a little luck.
Listen, people that work hard push against luck, and I get why, but of course luck. You were lucky to be born. Your mom and dad had sex at the right moment. That was 400 trillion to 1, people.
There you go.
I was born in the Soviet Union, and was born at a time where they were going to let people out. I mean, I'm lucky a tree didn't fall on my head.
It's true. That's true. Okay, enough about my parents having sex. Let's get it. I've got a bunch of questions too.
You're asking questions?
Yes, I have questions too. She copied me.
Respect. Go ahead.
Okay, so why did you do the Be Friends on Ethereum?
It was, Ethereum's a platform I invested in 2017-16. It was the place I was most comfortable with. I believe in Ethereum. I myself believe that in the platform long term. The team at NFT 42 that I decided to work with were Ethereum on-chain OGs, so they felt most comfortable. I looked at Wax. I didn't really look at Flow, mainly because I was just cheering for they had their own. I was like, Flow's busy, right? They've got NBA Top Shot. I love Roham, but I didn't really look. I looked at Wax a little bit. I just felt, I never, I've said already on here, I only feel comfortable in doing things I understand a little bit more. I was concerned about the gas fees. I was concerned about, the environmental aspects I spent a lot of time on. I spent time, it's where I personally felt most comfortable.
Are there any of the private blockchains that you're excited about? It sounds like not super huge at the moment, or you?
Actually, yesterday I had a meeting with my team, Phil, AJ, others, and said, all right, guys, now that I'm kind of over step one, my biggest passion is to really dig deep and get my own opinions on Polkadot, Cosmos, Cardano, Solana. I want to really learn. I don't view. I think it's impossible that in 6 years it's just Ethereum.
Yeah.
So.
See, that's the thing that I'm kind of going back and forth on, just because it's kind of at these prices, especially. If NFTs are still around, which I do think they will be, I feel like Ethereum's going to be the last one to go. Like, it's going to be like, it's hard for me to imagine a private blockchain overtaking Ethereum. Like,
I'm incredibly bullish on Ethereum, but tomorrow Sally might announce something, and after 100 hours of work, I'm going to be like, oh my God. But no, I think Ethereum has crossed into the and category, meaning it's going to be Ethereum and whatever else happens.
Exactly.
That's where I feel, passionate about.
And so looking at them long term, that's why it's very hard.
Yeah, I get it. People, what
I have one more question. One more question.
I'll ask one and you jump back.
Okay.
As a human, you've had this incredibly once in a lifetime moment. You're a couple of weeks, months, a month or so plus away, removed from it. What's different? Because there has to be something. It can't all be the same. What's different today than 6 months ago? And what's exactly the same? Because I think it's, for a lot of people here, they may win the lottery, they may have something tough happen, an adversity, or something amazing happen. And I think hearing something this jarring of a life change might help somebody in what they're going through right now, which is why I ask. So what's different and what's the same?
The same is that, I don't know, I'm still very focused on making digital art, super excited about it, and sort of I didn't move, I didn't go buy a bunch of crazy crap. It's sort of, in a lot of respects, there's a lot that didn't change. What did change is now I have employees, and I'm doing kind of all the same things to a degree, but on different sort of scale and sort of a different, it's just I'm doing most of the things I was doing. Obviously, I was not making physical objects before NFT, and that's a big difference from what I'm doing now. But it's kind of very similar to what I was doing before, just on, a much sort of broader scale and with a lot more sort of collaboration and people kind of helping me. But otherwise, it's sort of I don't feel like it's sort of my life has taken a vastly different direction. It just feels accelerated. And to be quite honest, I actually thought this would happen. Not to this level, this quickly, but I actually thought that when I hit 20 years of everydays, people would pay way more attention than they were. And so I thought that I would have some sort of national level attention when I hit 20 years. And so it happened quicker than I thought.
For you.
And I was always sort of I'm not going to stop doing this. People will catch up to what
Were you more emotional when you saw your art in the wild in that trip that you took to Hong Kong, or more when you got your first big sale in NFT land this year? That, by the way, I'm going to let you ask your question now, because that pause alone is what I was looking for and kind of knew it would be true.
Yeah, I don't know. They're just different. It was kind of it was sort of they're both just different forms of kind of they're both different forms of external validation, but at the same time, I really feel external validation is this fucking, it's a bittersweet. It's one of these things where it's good, but it can also be don't get too fucking focused on this external validation. I know when I do something that's good, and I know when I do something that's bullshit, and it has nothing to do with what other people think of it. And the more you're leaning on other people, the more it's going to end. But my question is, why'd you do the Dutch auctions?
I was worried that I've had people over the last 4 years want to invest in me, in a way that you can't imagine. Really special, wealthy, credible, nice people. I got very scared that a lot of them, and there's been a lot of them, would see this project for what it was, which was an incredible way to invest in all my capabilities. And I was scared that they were going to price out all of my community. And so I capped it, and it's worked out exactly the way I wanted. When I go into my Discord and I see people in there sitting with a V-friend, and I know what's it in the same fucking way that you sat there 13 years ago, maybe 12 years ago, a year or two in, and saying one day, I fucking know that V-Friends is going to be fucking huge. Disney, fucking Scooby-Doo, fucking Harry Potter, Hello Kitty. I will not rest until these characters mean a lot in popular culture. And now, that my original, I feel like everybody in my community, my email, my social, I've given them a chance. Now, with the 20% that are still left on vfriends.com, and I'm still pissed you don't own me. We're going to fight about this.
Dude,
I know you don't know how to buy NFTs. People, but now that I've given them all a chance, now, next week, I'll go to wealthy friends and really speak to them one-on-one and say, let me tell you what I'm going to actually do these next 20 years and why I'd like you to buy. And with the price of Ethereum right now being, it's an incredible I'm just incredibly pumped how I did it. I left money on the table.
Yes.
But I have a royalty. So I left money on the table to make sure I took care of my community. But now I'm going to go to work. Like the fact that I know somebody who had $6,000 bought one for $3,000 and one day is going to sell it to somebody I know that's super wealthy. Like I can't tell you this Robin Hood-like game that I've been playing in my head, but I feel incredible today. And the fact that there's still about 20% of the inventory on the original website, you can buy it, excites the shit out of me because it feels like whoever really believes in me is going to benefit. And you probably feel this about your original. You must feel incredible knowing that some people bought your shit early on and now are making incredible life-changing money for themselves because of the collateral impact. That's what I'm going to do at scale.
No, 100%. I had a buddy who bought one for $1,000 and sold it for $200,000 and like got all of his debt. And it's just like, oh my God.
One of the reasons I held back so many tokens and then stamped them GOO, Gary originally owned, is because I'm going to give them to my sister and my other friends who are it's going to be game changing for them. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I love you, pal.
Dude, thank you, dude.
Talk to you soon.
Talk to you.
Next, we have Mick Nayem, co-founder and business officer of Dapper Labs, the creators of CryptoKitties, Flow, and NBA Top Shot. Mick is committed to spreading blockchain education and creating delightful user experiences through partnerships with the likes of Ubisoft, Samsung, UFC, Dr. Seuss, and of course, the NBA. He joins us from Lisbon, where he was kite surfing this morning. Welcome, Mick.
Hey, great to be here.
Brother,
great to see you, Gary.
Yeah, great to see you. You know, I've had the luxury more to interact with Roham, so I use his name a lot when I give you guys daps, pun intended. But just thank you. I think when these books are truly written, it makes me happy that you and him and others on the team will get incredible accolades for the advancements, both with Kitties, both with NBA Top Shot. These are signature moments in the short history of NFT landscape. And so, congratulations. I mean, that's really darn neat. I personally very much am passionate about professional legacy. It's fun. It's what I play for much more than money. And I think you've achieved that in the way that at least I see the world evolving. So congrats on that. And also, launching VFriends. Boy, do I have a lot of compassion for what you guys have from a technical challenge on these NBA Top Shot drops. And so it's good to have you here. I'd love to get an opening line from you on, as somebody who's really been here from day ones, at least on the Ethereum with crypto and building your own, like, what are you feeling? Like, does this feel like incredible external validation of like, shit, I fucking knew this was going to happen and we're OGs? Does it feel surreal? Have you not even been able to focus on that because you're in such hyper growth and you've raised all this capital that you're just focused on executing? What are your feelings? I mean, this kite surfing is probably a requirement just to balance out all the shit that's going on, right?
The kite surfing is meditation, so yeah, super important. What are we feeling? I think it's just so cool to see a new generation of creatives come into the space and get it and be excited about it. And so for me, I'm just kind of excited about what you're doing, what other people are doing, and kind of try to peer outside my window and see like what's cool that's coming next, because I think it's going to be things that we never imagined. And for me, beyond just like making sure that we continue to do the things that we need to do to make the NBA Top Shot community happy and to grow Flow, I'm just really excited about what's next and what amazing people are going to do. I think what I love about NFTs is that it's unlike before where it was really just financial people getting into blockchain. Now we have this new types of people with completely different ideas of what decentralization means and what it can do. And so I just think we're going to see a huge amount of innovation over the next couple of years.
Talk to me about when you knew Top Shot was whoa, because I got the luxury of intro from Fred Wilson to Toto Roham, and you're probably aware of this, and you guys, and in July, and I'm like, oh, and I was just so deep in like making sure VaynerMedia was going to get through COVID, but I remember thinking like, ooh, this is, obviously because, and then, I mean, in my wildest dreams, and I'm usually good at this shit, I could have never thought 0 to 100. I mean, I thought I had enough time to do more stuff with you guys in maybe like for 2023, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you must have been surprised, or maybe not, which is why I'm asking. It happened so fucking fast and so big. 2 questions. Am I right in the assumption that it happened way bigger, way faster than you anticipated? Because that's an easy yes, no. When did you actually know and like literally have that moment with yourself and then communicate to your co-founders? Oh shit, fuck, yes, wow.
I think there were like 2 moments. Like, no, we never expected this. Like, we thought it was going to be a grind and we were going to grow slowly but surely. And I still think that it's still a grind. There's a million people who but the moment for me was when I saw a video tweet of Shaq saying, Top Shot this. That's when I was like, oh, okay, this really resonates.
This is becoming a verb. This is going to happen.
Yeah,
it's like a tweet, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. It's becoming a verb, and just like it's authentic. Like players like this, and I think that was really important.
I love that. When did somebody in your real life, like a parent or a friend or a relative, realize that this had happened? I love that story too.
Yeah.
I'm always curious.
Well, I mean, for me, it was really interesting when we created CryptoKitties. I was trying to get all my friends to buy CryptoKitties, and I couldn't. I like they would look at me, like they'd look at the cats, and then they're like, "Well, this is complicated," and I couldn't get it. For me, it was. I guess in February, I had 2 friends who were telling me, I just trade Top Shot now. Like, I'm at work, but all I do is trade Top Shot, and that's when I realized, like, okay, there's something here. People that are my friends who don't care about blockchain know way more about the product that I'm like contributing to building than I do, and that's what got me really excited.
What's on your mind on the macro space as somebody who has gone from kitties to the NBA Top Shot, 2 of the most substantial projects in the history of NFT land? What do you, besides your optimism and excitement to see new stuff and people innovate, which makes sense, anything nuanced?
I think the important part is really kind of going back to it and thinking, like, when you're creating a project, is how is this going to be valuable to your community, to your users, rather than just saying, hey, I can put pictures tied into an NFT and sell them. And so you did that with VFriends. I was just on a call with a great designer who's got ideas around smart contracts that help offset carbon emissions. It's just really thinking about, I mean, for us with NBA Top Shot, for us it was like, how do we make a collectible that's 10 times better than a physical one? And that's how we ended up with video, is just capturing those moments. It's just really like needing this for people to have this focus of, if I'm putting something out there, why is it more valuable for my audience? And how am I going to keep it valuable for that audience?
I love it. What for the 101s, the day ones, in this final minute that I have you, and I appreciate your time, what's a good place to start? How do you answer that question? They're looking at this, they're excited, they feel it. By the way, let's talk about Ethereum or Top Shot. Like, these early means volatile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the first place to start is engage with a product, engage with a couple of products, play with them. As you mentioned earlier, don't go crazy and spend all your money on it, but like test it, find what you find attractive with one or another. I like playing around with the NFTs that are kind of game related, like F1 Delta Time and stuff, because I learn a lot around like what it means to stake an NFT, et cetera. And so just playing around with as many different primitives, just go deep in the rabbit hole, read, but also play and interact with it. Taste it, see what's wrong with it, so that you can come up with better ideas.
I appreciate it, my man. Congratulations. What a run. Keep going.
Thanks.
Next, we welcome Matt Fortnow, an entertainment lawyer turned tech entrepreneur. Matt co-founded Commissioner.com, the web's first fantasy sports service, which he sold to CBS Sportsline for 8 figures. As a copyright expert, he co-authored the Bible of the music industry, This Business of Music. And 6 years ago, Matt dove into the world of cryptocurrency and blockchain technology, creating the official NFTs for iconic brands such as the Three Stooges. Welcome, Matt.
Yes, thanks, Andrea. Gary, nice to meet you.
It's a real pleasure, my friend. Why don't I give you the floor for your, having a beer with a buddy or a relative, and they're like, what's this NFT thing? Riff for 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah, I get that a lot, like, what's an NFT? I also get a lot, like, NFT is a scam. I hear that a lot. I saw on the Daily Show recently, they did a whole thing about NFTs being a scam, but I would just like to say that NFTs are the opposite of a scam.
I agree.
Like, the physical art world is a scam with all the forgeries and the fakes and the manufactured provenance, and even the collectible world. There's been a history of forgeries and fakes and other types of scams and doctoring of cards. But with NFTs, it's the opposite of a scam, because with the blockchain technology, you can easily go on the blockchain on Etherscan and see who the creator of the NFT was, the entire provenance, chain of title from owner to owner, and it's all transparent. So for anyone who keeps telling me NFTs are a scam, it's the opposite of a scam.
Matt, the reason they say that, and we saw it with anything that gets uber hot, expensive, fast, right? Internet companies, you were there,
right.
Yes. But let's talk about one that played out in a way that is an interesting one. Beanie Babies.
Right.
Right? You heard that, and what was true in that was because the people didn't. If I ran Beanie Babies, Matt, if Beanie Babies was mine,
right.
I believe today that Beanie Babies would be talked about the way that Hello Kitty, Pokemon, and Disney characters would, because I would have developed that. And had I would have developed them, I believe Beanie Babies, which, oh, by the way, are selling on eBay right this second for a lot more money than people think, just not the ludicrous price.
Right.
When I know exactly why people are saying it. On the flip side, I couldn't agree with you more. When people actually play, by the way, the internet, internet websites were a fad. That's all I heard. Gary, right. It's a fad, 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 it's a fad. And for me, it was, this is going to completely change the world. I'm completely convinced that everybody will live in a fully encompassing NFT world in a decade. And I don't make predictions like this and end up being wrong. I just don't. I understand humans too much. I think this is going to be too big. And I'm excited to be in this time, because I invested in Ethereum in 16, 17 because I believed in what they were building for this moment. I just didn't spend my time until it became more consumer-centric, which I think you have done really well in your career. And I think that's why we're here right now. It's now in the dawn of consumer-centricality, right? Can you give me my Oculus real quick? Like, Matt, I don't know how it's right over there, but I don't know how much you're playing with VR yet or at all.
Yeah, actually, I'm involved in a company, 3Data. They're doing VR data visualization.
This is what Ethereum was 7 years ago for me, 5 years ago for me, right? I know this is coming. It may not be this clunky by the time it comes to this moment in 7 years, but it's coming. I just won't talk about it a lot, but boy, oh boy, when it comes, that's all I'm going to talk about. And I think we are in the beginning of it, Matt. Your thoughts?
Absolutely. I mean, this, like Mark was saying earlier, I feel we're at 1995 with the internet. And there was a big flood stage with the internet, like Mark was saying, don't enter your credit card. There's a lot of fear in the media. Even that movie, The Net, with Sandra Bullock, instilling fear. So a lot of people still have that fear. They're afraid to dip their toe in the water. So what I tell people is just do it. Make some NFTs. Get in the game and learn and make mistakes and just have fun with it, because NFTs are here to stay, and there's a huge future for NFTs. I mean, coming, as a lawyer, I can see NFTs for IP, like copyrights, for musicians, not just to make money by selling songs, but they can make NFTs of copyrights, and people can own part of their copyrights. And it's also a way for people to invest in the future of an artist that they believe in, like a musical artist. Like if an artist wants to raise some money, either produce some songs, they can actually issue NFTs of their copyrights, which people can be part of their community, but also actually potentially earn income in the future from these copyrights.
It's my number one thing that I keep telling. You know what my number one go-to on that is, Matt? Imagine you were one of the first 200 fans of Nirvana.
Exactly.
Went to the coffee shop or bar, bought one of their NFTs, owned 0.1% of Teen Spirit, and now sit every day and watch Spotify send you ungodly levels of money.
Exactly.
I can't wait for
imagine.
that. I'm going to do that, Matt. I'm going to get very involved in music for that reason. I've been so right. I'm good. You know, Mike Boyd and I spend a lot of time together guessing which hip hop artists are going to pop, and we have a great track record. The fact now that in 2 years I know that they're going to be doing that, I'm going to be buying up. It's awesome that I was right about Gunna and DaBaby. It would be way more awesome if I was getting 1% of all the royalties on Spotify right now.
Right, and it could be done for movies. If you're an independent filmmaker and producing a film, you can issue NFTs, which are going to be collectible as well, but it's a way for people to invest in the film, and if the film does well, then you can get a nice return from that. And even imagine like playing fantasy sports for real. Like you can securitize part of someone's income and turn that into an NFT collectible. And like if you have a rookie draft, we have a rookie draft every year for our Dynasty League. So imagine like really having a rookie draft and thinking, what players are going to be big and potentially earning income from that in the future.
What's either one, you can take either. What are you most convicted about? 100% it's going to happen? And what are you still most hazy about as you're strategizing in your mind? You're like, I don't see what's going to happen. Maybe this could, those two things.
Well, I'm pretty convinced that the whole NFT copyrights are going to happen. Now, the only issue are all the legalities with the SEC have to be worked out as far as securities, but I don't really see that as a problem. I see that working out, and there could be specific exchanges for securitized NFTs. So as far as being hazy, I mean there's a lot of things up in the air with NFTs. I mean mainly like these inflated values that we're seeing, but I mean I think everything is going to even out, and like in the internet days we had crazy values of companies that didn't even have any revenue model. It was insane.
Had a name.
They had a name, and that was it. So the cream, over time, Google, Amazon, rose to the top, and all these companies that was just vaporware fell to the wayside. And I think we'll see that happening with NFTs as well.
Have you been buying NFTs?
Yeah, I've got a few NFTs, but I haven't really been much of a collector yet.
Are you more focused on the shovels and picks, and you're worried about the gold later?
Yeah, exactly. I'm more like, I did the Three Stooges NFTs. I said, let me just jump in the game, make some mistakes and learn from that.
Who had the IP to that? Who owned that?
C3 Entertainment.
Was that a fun process? Did you learn a lot?
It was fun. I mean, I'm a huge Stooge fan, so it was just really fun from that standpoint.
I can tell by you're copping one of the haircuts. Yeah, just for fun, we got 1 minute, and I feel like we've given a lot of value. Why did you fall in love with the Stooges?
With the Stooges?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was watching them as a kid growing up, and it
just hit?
It just hit. I mean...
Was your dad or grandfather or uncle or mom or aunt, did somebody love it in the family?
No, it's just, used to be on, every weekend, and that slapstick stuff. I also love, Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin, all those physical comedy shows.
Mm-hmm. Matt, thank you so much for sharing.
Oh, thanks so much, Gary. Great to meet you.
Next up, we have G Money, a cryptocurrency investor and NFT collector. In January of 2021, he purchased CryptoPunk number 8219 for $150,000. A record sale at the time, sparking the parabolic rise in CryptoPunks. Vested piece of advice that G Money received was to find something he'd do for free and then find somebody to pay him to do it so he wouldn't feel like it's work. Welcome, G Money.
Hey, how are you?
G Money, how are you?
Good. Excited to be here.
Same. Let's go right to the thing that I'm sure a lot of people are thinking about. What is it in the early crypto culture that led to a lot of people doing what you're doing now, which is stay behind the scenes, use some of their art or characters to be their face, keep their, anonymity? Like what do you attest that to?
Well, I think a lot of it, right, is the self-custody of wallets, right? So it's like, if for instance, like I had my money in a bank, like it's really hard for somebody to access it because of KYC and AML laws. But if I'm walking down the street and I self-custody my own assets, like, OPSEC is more of an issue, right? Which is why you generally find people in crypto they care about the privacy way more.
Do you feel like in this last year you're noticing that change a little bit and people are coming out in a different way and you can feel that consumer shift in the ecosystem?
Where people are less concerned about privacy?
Yeah.
I think people are. Yes and no. Like I mean, I think you just have the range, right? It's a sketchy gray, right? Like some people, I've spoken to people that are anonymous that will disguise their voices, right? Like it's everybody has like their range of what they feel comfortable with. But I think as you gain more adoption of crypto and NFTs, like most people will be public for the most part.
And you feel as people get more educated and as technology keeps making, non-custodials quote unquote safer or advancements that maybe we can't even think of right now that will make it different, you think that will evolve over time?
Yeah, for sure, right? Like the tech will get there. Like I always use the example of like, I'm in my late 30s, right? Like I started playing video games and like Super Mario Brothers was my first game, right? But that's not the final iteration of tech. People just keep innovating.
Correct. Kimani, what do you think everybody here, aspiring investors, done well in this space as an NFT collector, trader? Give me the G Money bullet points. Give me the 3-minute riff of things that everybody here should consider, things you've learned.
With regards to investing in the space?
Yes.
Yeah, so basically, like just buy stuff you like, be, to your point that you just brought up, right? Like if you really like a creator or some sort of creative and you're buying their early works, and I do this all the time myself, where it's like, if I find somebody new and I want to support them, right? Like that's the best way to do it is just to support them, buy literally what they're making so that they keep on doing it, right? And like, and to your credit, like, you've been talking about this for years where it's like, at some point you'll find your audience, right? And you just have to keep on creating and, your fans will find you. And that's kind of the beauty of the internet, right? Is like, you're no longer have to be in just one physical location in order for people to find you, right? Like you're just out there on the internet and everybody will find you.
What's been most surprising to you this year with this space?
How fast and quickly it grew. Like I bought this pump, my ape in January, the first week of January. And I joked that like, I wanted it to be the first pump to be sold at Christie's or Sotheby's and I thought it was like 5 years out, let alone, 5 months away, that we saw pump sales, going up at Christie's, which I thought was incredible.
What did you see that made you, just to educate everybody, what do you pay for this and what's your assessment on what you think the fair market value is of this punk?
So
then remind everybody how few apes there are in the scheme of the 10,000 crypto punks.
Okay, so there's 10,000 crypto punks. Of those punks, there are 9 aliens, 25 apes, and 88 zombies. And so of those, that means they're rarer within that 10,000 set. So, my first purchase was a zombie in December, and then I was stalking the apes in general for like a month. And, the thing that stuck out to me was on the first day of quarantine last year, I bought a PlayStation because I figured that was the only way I was going to survive. And, I downloaded Fortnite. I wanted to hear like everything that was going on. And I start playing with my friends and their nephews. And these kids are like 10, 11, 12 years old. And they're like, hey, what skins did you buy? I'm like, skins? Do they give me special powers? And they're like, no. So I'm like, no, I'm not going to buy any skins. fast forward, a couple weeks, I'm buying all the skins I can. And this is before I knew what an NFT was. And I was like, there's going to be a massive super cycle of digital asset ownership. And I just was like, I don't know how to capitalize on it yet, right? Because we're still in like the Web2. And once I discovered what an NFT was, and that was like in the late summer, early fall, and I'm hanging out in Discord, on Twitter, and Telegram, and I'm realizing, wow, like my profile is skin, right? It's like, we're quote unquote in the metaverse right now, because we're in these communities, right? Because it's like, what is a metaverse, right? Like we all think that it's going to be this VR, really submersive thing, and it's coming for sure. But like we're living in the metaverse now. So
that was what I thought about social media.
Yeah.
I thought that was the metaverse, and I feel like you couldn't have been more right. To me, what was happening in Fortnite, NBA 2K, Madden. By the way, you know what really hit me was Farmville.
Yeah.
Like there's a video of me in 2011 talking about virtual goods, and I was like, because that was when I was really studying Facebook behavior. I was like, people are buying virtual fucking sheep.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy, right? Like, and when I realized that, and it's almost like the consumerism of the Western world, right? Where it's like people are conditioned to be like, oh, I'm gonna buy this because this, whatever this product is, what does it convey about me as a person, right? And it's like in the digital realm, you're still gonna see the same things, but it's just like you get a little more uniqueness to it, right? Because
it's also a tradable, interchangeable asset.
Yeah.
Which is like, think about that. Everybody, when some parent, if you're watching right now, when you bought all those Power Rangers for your kid 20 years ago, you eventually sold those 5 years later when your kid got out of Power Rangers in a garage sale for $20 to someone like me, who then sold them for $200 on eBay. With where we're going with NFTs, when your kid gets out of those NFTs, you're going to trade them on the open marketplace, potentially for a profit.
Yeah, it's incredible, right? Like the upside, like the implications of it are insane. And like once I wrapped my head around that, I was like, wow, like there's no doubt in my mind that this is the future.
Are you excited about the smart contract and the things that can be attached to the digital asset? Have you been thinking about that? Obviously, I cared about that with VeeFriends. Have you been looking at that? Is that in part of your strategy as you think about what is interesting to you?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I love about NFTs is that everything in the real world is an NFT, right? So like that to me, when I realized that, I'm like, this is not a fad, this is here to stay. So using that framework, right? It's like, you can be as creative as you want, like to your credit, like what I loved about your launch was like the inclusion of, these real live events that people there's a ton of value on that, right? And,
right.
Like it's not just like, hey, I'm going to come in here
and gee, for me, it was, let me do something super valuable in the upfront so that everyone's patient, because the way I'm going to build out these characters, I want my original OGs to really win, but I don't want them to have to wait because there's so much flexibility. And I mean, we just saw it, right? Yesterday was a wild day.
Right.
Like, I want it. And so that's how I thought about that. And there's a million other ways people are going to think about things because of that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And that's the thing is when people come to me with like new ideas, they're like, oh, hey, like, what do you think of this? And like, how do you suggest I do this? I'm like, you could be as creative as you want. And then you just have to figure out how to work that into a smart contract, right? And that's like the beauty of where we are at this point in like the tech cycle.
You might not have one, but in the last minute, I'm going to ask you for it. Any project that you think is emerging that's very low price that might be a good entry point for some of the, obviously punks are out of price range for many. Anything capture your eye that's just launched that might still be affordable for many?
Right now, there's nothing that I'm really eyeing. I mean, I'm personally, like, with regards to punks, like, I'm a huge punk maxi, as you know, as we've discussed in the past. But like,
me too.
If you can get a fractionalized version of a punk, that's a good way to get punk exposure without having to, drop a large sum on it.
G-Money, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Cheers.
Next, we welcome People Pleaser, a digital artist known for her collaborations with various DeFi protocols. Recently, her work on the Uniswap V3 animation raised over $600,000 for charity by selling it as an NFT, and subsequently inspired the formation of Pleaser DAO. Her life motto is "Loosen up, homie," and she lives by the best advice she got: have good ideas, be skillful, and treat people nicely. Well, people pleaser.
Hey, thanks for having me.
How are you?
Not bad. It's
Good.
a nice day in the city today. So.
That it is, which makes me happy. So why don't you give everybody a little 1 minute on you and kind of your journey, 2-3 minutes on your NFT journey.
Yeah, definitely. I started selling NFTs probably like last summer, but nothing very serious. And my claim to fame sort of was, so I was all this time like collaborating with a bunch of DeFi protocols, which are decentralized protocols. If anybody doesn't know what that is, it's pretty big in crypto. And I was just making sort of animations for them because that's what I have been doing as my job for a long time. I was working at like Blizzard before on their cinematics and stuff. And yeah, I just thought that with my skill set, I could bring some fun to the crypto space. And then sort of my claim to fame within the NFT space was back in March, I had made this animation for Uniswap V3 and then sold it as an NFT. And then it sold for 310 Ethereum. Which the whole amount was pledged to supporting anti-Asian hate charities and nonprofit organizations. And here we are today. But what was cool about this case was that a specific DAO was formed to buy the NFT. There was a bidding war at the end.
Why don't you educate everybody on this incredible new organization called DAOs?
Yeah, so decentralized autonomous organizations, aka DAOs, are essentially basically these groups of people who have the same sort of like goal, and you can use blockchain technology to pool money together and make decisions together on the blockchain.
So for everybody, just a group of people, they all pool together, they have their rules, and then they buy together, and it's been a really cool and interesting phenomenon for sure in this space. What was your expectations for how much your 310 ETH project would have went for? No bullshit. Don't go humble, but don't go making something like genuinely. What was your gut?
I always go by ranges, and so I have like a worst case scenario and best case scenario. And in my head, worst case scenario was single digit ETH, and best case scenario was over 6 figures in terms of US dollar value.
So you were just thrilled.
Yeah. Basically, if it was like 100K, I would have been over. So obviously I did not expect that.
Did the success of that lead to a ton of new opportunities for you?
Yeah, I mean, I had always been sort of very engaged within the DeFi crypto community anyways, so I think it definitely opened up a lot of doors in terms of publicity, or maybe more on the NFT side of things, but I'm never gonna abandon my DeFi crypto community.
Of course, it's your community.
I resonate with and I love, but yeah, of course I'm grateful for all of the doors, and I'm excited to see where the DAO is headed actually, so.
What are you most curious about from a consumer or human behavior thing? So obviously the DAOs you just mentioned, right? DAO, everybody who's in the chat. There we go, Sebastian, thank you. What else has really intrigued you in the last month or 2 or 3? Like, oh, that's wild, or something like, I still don't have it figured out in my brilliant head how this is going to play out.
To be completely honest with you, when the whole Pleaser DAO thing formed, I actually didn't understand the scope of it myself. But so then I looked into it a little bit later and why people thought it was a really big deal. And essentially, I mean, I think first Vitalik was saying about something about how NFTs can further instantiate its own legitimacy as an asset by committing to donate some of the revenue to social institutions that align with people's values. And that's sort of very in line with what Pleaser DAO is doing, and also that we're living in sort of like an age where decentralized internet communities that figure out how to organize themselves are really important. And the reason why Pleaser DAO is so intriguing as well is because they're one of the most organized entities that are just like, they've gone on to purchase the Snowden NFT for 2,224 Ethereum, and then recently the Tor project NFT that was also $2 million. And they are very, very organized. It's basically like the dream of Silicon Valley or something. They can like pull funds really quickly and act quickly and expand quickly as well. And I think DAOs actually sit a level above NFTs. So they can not only own NFTs, but perhaps maybe even like create NFTs and do a lot of other things too. It's really transformative, I think. And so you can think of an NFT as a piece of digital media, but a DAO could actually be an entire company in that sense, right? A media company.
Totally, 100%. What do your normal friends think about all this shit?
Most of my normal friends don't know about my crypto identity or even my...
Is that true?
Yeah.
So your normal friends, or at least outside of your most core friend group, actually have no clue?
Yeah, I don't think they have any clue.
Do you love that?
I kind of like to keep it a little bit separate, yeah.
What about when one of them finds out? Like, which I assume has happened at this point. Has that been fun?
Yeah, sometimes. And definitely, you know, I'm always grateful. I think it's mostly that I find it beneficial to educate people about like cryptocurrency or the blockchain. I mean, in the past, I did talk to people about it because I just assumed that they weren't interested. But now with NFTs blowing up, I'm seeing more and more of my real life friends actually just genuinely gaining interest in this. And so they would reach out to me and be like, can you tell me what an NFT is? What is this about? And that part is exciting. So if they genuinely want to learn about it themselves, then I'm always happy to talk to them.
Why don't you, while we got you for 3 minutes, why don't you break down DeFi in your most 101 layman's terms? Because we're not going to touch on that too much here, but obviously I'm aware of your strength and being part of that community. I think could be valuable for somebody to go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, so DeFi, also known as decentralized finance, is basically a sort of entire new community and form of finance that has been made possible through cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. And most of the protocols are either using just technologies that are available that through either like yield farming, or you can take out loans. There's all these things that you can do, which are concepts that were already familiar in traditional finance. But I would say to sort of explain it like on five, it's like it's now being done quicker and like way more automated because of the technology and because of the software that's like available, or sorry, but the code and everything that makes it possible. And so it's kind of like traditional finance but on steroids. So there's a lot of really lucrative yield and APYs that, for example, you know, traditional banks really pale in this comparison because they're offering like 0.02% APYs on your the money that you put in the bank or something. But in DeFi, anything, you know, around like the 8 to 10% is very commonly seen. And yeah, it's just a way for people, you know, even if I think a lot of NFT artists can benefit from learning about this as well without getting into
make money on your money.
And even if you're lazy, you know, and you don't want to do like a bunch of farming or like really get into it, you can park your stable coins or Ethereum or even Bitcoin, whatever you want, like on specific DeFi protocols and just earn interest off of that, you know, as opposed to having it do nothing. So highly encourage artists to look into it, especially if they're earning ETH now on their NFTs.
What do you think's next for you in this last minute? Give me a sneak preview of something you're potentially plotting.
Potentially plotting. I mean, I love making videos, so I just love the storytelling aspect of it. So I would love to experiment with maybe longer form videos, maybe even, I don't know, short films, movies, who knows. But yeah, I mean, we might even see a future where NFTs could be an animated movie or something. You never know. And I also am excited about the metaverse. And also excited about what Caesar DAO is up to. You know, I really like the ethos that they're going for and everything that's happening. And by the way, they're throwing a party in Brooklyn this Saturday. So if anybody who's watching this is interested in coming to hang out,
have you shared it on your social on this account?
Yeah, you can find me, you know, on Twitter or on my Instagram. And yeah, I'll probably be sharing details when we know more, but it's going to be in Brooklyn on Saturday. Come hang. You as well.
Thank you for the invite. Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks.
We'll see you there. Next, we welcome Jim McNellis, a cryptocurrency miner and founder and CEO of NFT42, a platform that builds applications leveraging blockchain technology with a specific focus on NFTs. Jimmy's inspiration is Michael Jordan's story as he tells it. I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career, lost almost 300 games, and missed 26 of game-winning shots. I failed over and over again in my life, and that's why I succeed. Welcome, Jimmy.
Thank you, Andrea.
Jimmy, I love you so much as being my true partner in crime in VeeFriends, but the fact that Michael Jordan, I mean, we started this interview off in a very difficult manner. Jimmy, so everybody's watching. If you go to VeeFriends.com right now, which I would love, if you scroll all the way down to the site, on the bottom right-hand side, you'll see that it is powered by a platform called Nameless, which is an incredible platform that Jimmy and his crew at NFT 42 have built out and are building out. And, you know, I bet my wagon and hitched my wagon to it, and think anybody who's got an ambitious NFT project should consider, from the biggest brands in the world. Jimmy, why don't you tell the story of VeeFriends from your perspective and intertwine your OG-ness, your blockchain gang, your ethos? You know, I think there's a fun 5-minute story of VeeFriends that can be told where you can intertwine both what was interesting. We haven't even been able to fully recap yet, so I'm almost being selfish here. You know, what was interesting about that, things you didn't expect, or other things that will bring value. So what's the story, and then more importantly, from your perspective, not mine, and the things that were challenges and exciting things and things people should keep an eye out for?
Yeah, so I think it's a really cool story and a really exciting one for me personally. So thanks for having me on today, giving me the opportunity to share. So, you know, it was a few months ago, I guess, you showed up in some Discord channels like CryptoPunks and the like. And then I remember you joined a smaller group with a few of us, and we're hanging out. And then one day I had a DM from you like, hey, Jimmy, it's Gary Vee. And then I think you got my number, and I got a text from you a few days later, like, let's talk. So we got on the phone and we talked about NFTs, and I was really impressed right off the bat. Like, you had done your homework. You know, you already owned a bunch of punks at that point. I don't think I knew that, but like, you had done your homework. And you know, we talked about what we had just done. We had raised around, and we're building out this platform. We didn't have a name at the time. Actually, the fact that it turned out to be nameless, there's a bit of irony in that, because we changed names every week for over a month. But then we spoke, and you cared a lot about making sure that your project was viewed as a legitimate project, and that you weren't taking any of the shortcuts that would net in the tokens being deemed as not legitimate in any way, or that they could be interrupted. You wanted everything to be on chain, which is like kind of like my mantra, and I preach it. So, you know, you and I connected on that immediately. And for me, it was amazing because I think I shared with you at the time when I started my last business in 2007, and growing through that Web 2 phase, seeing you as somebody who was teaching people how to go out and build their brand and build their businesses around these new technologies and everything else. And I seeing you come into NFTs, I was like, oh, wow, here he goes again. It was Web 2, and now here he's going with Web 3. And now I get the opportunity to actually work with you to do this. Like, what an amazing journey. And so it was off to the races pretty quickly, right? You know, you knew what you wanted to do. You knew you had a lot of work to do. We told you what we could help with and what you needed to do, and you went out and did it. And we worked really hard to keep up with you and to follow in your wake for the next, I don't know, it was about 7 or 8 weeks, I think. And yeah, so, you know, I think we both learned a lot.
Jimmy, what surprised you the most? Today, at this exact moment, it could be any part of the cycle.
What surprised me the most was how well you did onboarding new people into the NFT and blockchain and Ethereum world, and teaching them how to use wallets and how to set up their MetaMask and what Ethereum is and how to buy it off Coinbase and why it matters. Like when the metrics that I've looked at like over the last week, you know, obviously very impressive, 10,500 ETH, more than that. We saw that the withdrawal function worked on the contract today, so we're all really excited about that. When I checked several days ago, it was over 4,200 people who had VeeFriends in their wallet. That's 4,200 unique owners out of just over 10,000 tokens. That's a really high ratio of new people in the space too, but also tokens to owners ratio for a brand new project. It's a very well distributed supply. And look, I helped a lot of people on these launch days with their wallets individually, and I had to teach them how to actually do a custom nonce in their wallet, which is a really advanced thing. And many of them had 0 as their nonce number, which means their first transaction. And these people figured it out. You have a really smart community. Like everybody really is educated, and they take what you say seriously about educating yourself and know those 50 hours, because I'm explaining these things and they're picking up on it very fast. So really, really, really impressed with the community and the ability to bring new people into this new technology. You're giving them an opportunity now on the ground floor. They're going to own BeFriends and expand through that and make new connections within those communities and find their groups within those communities. And then those people are going to go and start to explore NFTs and understand them more from there. I'm excited to see any derivative projects that come off of this as well. The pigeon that you did yesterday with the apparel line,
yes.
I went immediately and looked. I was like, oh, do I have the right pigeon? And I didn't.
I know there's 2 pigeons in the collection.
I hope you're doing that more. And I'm excited. You know, I believe in the project. I degened myself. I bought about 10 of the regular access tokens. I bought a couple special ones. And right now I'm holding the Courtside Cat, which is, the 3 games at Madison Square Garden, 3 years in a row.
I fully expect you to hodl at least once so we can have a nice time at the game. But then
I'm planning on this year, we're going to do it. And we're going to show everybody how awesome it is. And then you and I are both going to make some money off of that one, buddy.
And what he means by that is he then resells it. I've got a 9% royalty because I'm donating 1% of all secondary royalties to charity. Jimmy, what have you heard have you yet heard from big intellectual property or other people with large audiences since, and has what I dreamed happened or not happened, which was my hope, and this, was to create a blueprint that other brands and individuals could look at and say, oh, wait a minute, I'm not just going to do an image. I got to do more. I got to create more value for my community. Has that happened yet?
It's starting to happen for sure. We haven't done any PR or press or anything around this at all on our end. It's really just been from your promotion and people who actually are looking at that nameless name on the website and looking deeper and finding out how to find me. Yes, it's happening. And as you know, you're an investor of ours as well. We're engaged with some really awesome brands and exploring some opportunities in the NFT space. So I'm extremely excited about what's coming. I'm actually a little bit scared because there's so much coming, and we're still a small team that's growing very quickly. So we're trying to build a platform, and right now we're having to do these one-offs as we're learning what that platform is. Your project, God, we learned so much, Gary, and it's going to make every project we do in the future so much better. It's just an amazing starting point for the nameless brand, really. And I can't express enough gratitude for your faith in our ability to pull it off and hanging with us and making that week delay was a little rough for everybody, but we made it through. Retrospective, there's lessons learned, but we made it through, and this is, for the long term. So, in the grand scheme of things.
What is the temperature of the NFT collector community that you're a big part of?
What
about yesterday? What about yesterday? Were people, freaked out, excited? Like, I bought a bunch of Ethereum yesterday. I was happy. Even though I was losing a lot with what I was sitting on from the project, I was excited and kind of took advantage of it. When I believe in something, I believe in something.
Yeah, I did a tweet late last night that said, I'm like 99% NFT, so I wasn't impacted by the drop.
Right, because you're not sitting on the ETH, you're sitting on the assets from it.
And those can readjust.
Yeah, I was talking to everybody in Discord. I'm like, because right before ETH was hot, before my project, everyone's like, don't buy BeFriends. It's going to be 10,000. And I went in there, I'm like, what about now? You're still going to get 3 years of VCon, same way, and it's in half. Like, that's just part of the game.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about NFTs and investing and stuff here is that it can work both ways. Like, right now, CryptoPunks are like half of what they were. They'll eventually find their way back up to where they were before, or maybe even higher. But the price of the asset can then be adjusted in Ethereum to reflect the dollar value, and you're not actually just stuck holding a fixed amount of the Ethereum when it drops to whatever it drops to. So it's like 4D investing strategies and things like that, but it can work out really well, and it can work out the other way. But I think the temperature is that people. Look, we went through these crypto winters the last couple of years. The
ICO winter was cold.
Yeah, we spent 2 years just collecting NFTs when no one thought this stuff was going to do anything. Gas was 1 or 2, right? It was 260 ETH when we deployed your tokens.
Since I'm losing you in a second.
Yep, sorry.
I'm sorry. Any project that's really inexpensive that you like to not like an official investment advice, but I know a lot of people are trying to get into something. Anything capture? I know it's a tough spot. Maybe there isn't anything, which is fine.
No, there is, and I just,
You haven't bought enough
I
yet?
never succeed. No, I bought way too much. I never succeeded to selling my own project. Avastars is still the best deal in the town. It's 0.07 ETH to buy a common Avastar. It's completely on.
How many Avastars did you make?
There's going to be 25,000 total. There's about 4,500 left. You go to avastars.io. You buy one. It's on chain forever. It's the first fully on chain project.
What's the US dollar version?
I don't know. I guess it'd be 120 bucks.
It's $27.50 right now.
Yeah, my guess is like 120, 150 bucks, unfortunately. I mean, sorry about that. We fixed the price to 0.07 Ethereum a year ago. Some people got these for like 15 bucks. But you can go on the second market open, see if you can find one cheap. You really can. So, that's the 0.07 ETH.
Thank you, Jerry.
All right, take care. Talk soon, Gary.
So, Gary, we wanted to close out this episode and just give you a chance to riff a little bit about VeeFriends and NFTs, but also welcome some questions from our audience and, just kind of round out all the conversations that we've already had.
Team, if you could put the Discord URL while I'm talking, that would be my first piece of advice. I've been blown away by VeeFriends Discord. It's also linked to my Instagram right now. That would be the first thing I would say, Andrea. And I've said it, as you know, I've said this to the leaders of our company, like the community itself is educating in a way. I'm in there constantly. Andy, Jimmy's in there a ton. So first and foremost, education. The reason I asked, Jimmy about an inexpensive one, and he's right, his project, Avastars, is very underpriced in my opinion as well, and obviously I love him. But I think that this is a game of education. Like, if you're picking up on what these 2 hours were putting down, it's very clear that a lot of people that have historical success of being right about things that haven't seemed obvious, are sitting here saying, hey, I always laugh. Like, my one buddy reached out and said, gave me a whole manifesto of why NFTs is not going to happen. And I asked him where he got this from, and he said, this guy at work. And I said, brother, you've known me my whole life. You've watched everything I've talked about happen in a way that nobody thought would happen. You've got people like Mark Cuban talking about, your fucking buddy from work. People are built on fear.
That's right.
And on greed. Fear and greed is what I'm most worried about right now. Fear, because people are like, this is just a fad, it's bullshit, and they never put the 50 hours of homework. They don't join 6 Discords, they don't learn, and they never get there, right?
Yeah,
greed,
for reasons to dismiss it, right?
Greed, because greed makes bad decisions, right? Somebody in our Discord listed their VeeFriend on OpenSea, and the person tricked them and offered them 25 cents, not 25 Ethereum. And they sold it. So they bought something for 9,000 and sold it for 25 cents. And the community in Discord and my team and me myself are like, damn it, and feel bad. But I'd be lying if I didn't say, that's a greed move. You don't buy something for 3 Ethereum and sell for 25 in 2 seconds. Or 7 or 9, whatever it was. Greed and lack of education will get you into trouble. And so greed and fear are the 2 things that I'm trying to really get people in. So discord.com/invite/VeeFriends, or to make it much easier, go to my URL in my Instagram right now. As far as VeeFriends, look, VCon's amazing. Going to a basketball game with me or being part of a FaceTime or a hangout on Hangout Hawks, like there's a lot of cool stuff, but all of that is wildly secondary. Even the 3 years of VCon, vcon.co, VEECON.co, even that is just a short term. I'm looking to build out this intellectual property and really make this digital asset something that's worth having. And so obviously you know me very well. I'm very passionate about good behavior in human beings. And you also know that I'm self-aware, which means I know not everyone is going to pick up what Gary Vee is putting down. I'm too much, I'm too aggressive. My conviction and excitement comes across to some people, luckily a smaller amount than the other way, but not good, or I'm this or I'm that. Because I am competitive and I am alpha, and I know that turns some people off. The fact that I now have a countable aunt This is real for me, that I have patient panda, that I have offense-oriented orangutan, that I have focused falcon, that I have humble hedgehog. Like, the fact that I have this universe now, I think I'm going into a very interesting part of my career where I'm going to be able to make an impact around kindness and empathy and all these things, and really make a difference through the character development, and whether it's cartoons or stuffed animals or collectible desk toys or comic books or, ice capade shows or a zoo or who the hell. But I'm going to pull this off, just like everything else I said that everybody said I wouldn't. And I'm excited about having my early community be part of that journey.
So one thing that didn't come up today was we didn't hear any rants about sustainability or any of those kind of things. Any perspective there?
I think it's because there's a million things in the world that are, this is not great for the environment, right? Like, I think that I am so impressed with the overall community on even Ethereum itself, which has one of the bigger vulnerabilities because it's switching and the evolution of proof of work to proof of stake, I think the reason, and there's plenty of articles, but the reason it's not like overwhelming everybody is almost nobody's saying, go fuck yourself, right? Everyone's saying, you're right, let's do something about this. And blockchains are being built that are good. Ethereum's level 2 is being built on that. So I think that it's because most humans, my thing with all issues is why not? Why not make it great for the environment if you can as quickly as possible? Why not be nice to your fellow man or woman? Like, why not? Why not? Why not? You can have both. You can be successful, you can be fulfilled, and you can be selfless and leave a legacy and do the right things. I think some people get caught into two extremes. Some people live in a world of scarcity, and so it's winner takes all, it's all this garbage. Other people live in an ideology. They're not practical. They want people to do things tomorrow that are not real to a lot of people without a lot of destruction. So it's about compassion, empathy, and lack of judgment. And I think that's like how I see that.
And Gary, what's the conversation that you have with your parents? Are they surprised that you're doing this? And, just would love to hear a little bit about that.
I went down to Miami to spend time with my parents this last weekend off the heels of the launch. They are as proud as parents can be. My parents are my parents. So by the way, think about how much better you know me compared to everybody who's watching this. Yeah. And what the actual delta is between Gary Vee and the small little, I can't even begin to comprehend how big the gap is. I think it's actually quite extraordinarily large. Yes. Now imagine what my parents' gap is to you. They know everything. They've seen me completely live every day of my life. They know who I am. They know where my heart sits. So for me, for my parents, it's kind of like, they're just, and don't forget where my parents come from. They were 22, 23 years old, came to America, had nothing to their name. Nothing, right? So for them, it's a level of pride, a level of surreal, a level of fun validation. They also know that their kid fought the system. They know that their kid didn't conform to school, and they know everything. They know everything. So, and I have an incredible relationship with my parents. They're only 20 years older than me, and, I'm 20 years older than people on my team and in my company, right? And you're 20 years older than some of the people in our company and your team. And it kind of feels like you're friends. Sure, you're maybe a little bit of you don't feel like a parent, you feel like an older, I don't feel like, because I'm 20 years older than people on my team, like their dad, I feel like their older, wise friend. And in a weird way, my parents' close proximity in age with me allows for a very unique relationship. I've also been incredibly unique in my relationship with my parents. We have such a partnership through the years, so it's
great
really
thing is you guys all learn from one another, and that's the same thing that we have at Vayner. We learn from everybody, right? And it's so beautiful to see what you've created. That's just celebrates exactly who you are as a human as well as an entrepreneur. Congratulations!
Thank you. I love everybody. Hope everybody has a great day. Thanks for this. We'll talk to you soon. Hope you enjoyed it. Please hit me up on Twitter with your thoughts on this episode of Marketing for the Now. Thanks, Andrea.
Thank you, Gary. All right, and then our next show is going to be on June 17th at 12 p.m. We're going to mix things up a little bit this summer. So please join us. We're going to hear from CEOs and founders as well as marketers. Check us out and check out past recordings on mftn.vaynerx.com. We'd love to hear from you and hear what you liked and how we can continue to grab your attention. Marketing for the Now at Vaynerx.com. Thanks, everybody.